grow area. This is new to us. So now I don't have to grow my seeds on the kitchen table. Let's start with lettuces and leaves. We grow a lot of lettuce here. I grow in succession planting throughout the season. So I'll start very early in March underneath my cold frame with all of the things I'm about to go over and continue succession planting all the way through the fall. I'm going to experiment with putting it in my greenhouse last and trying some supplemental heat in the greenhouse and seeing if I can grow lettuce all the way through the winter. First is your standby mesclun or mix lettuce. This stuff is great if you're not really into growing head lettuce. I don't do head lettuce. I don't let anything that I grow mature into a head. I use the method called cut and come again, which means as the leaves grow, I just trim off the top part of the leaves, fill my salad bowl, and let that part grow back while I harvest another section. That means I have a continuous supply of lettuce throughout the growing season. We're going to try Butter Crunch this year. I got that from Johnny Seeds. And we're also going to try Black Seeded Simpson. And as you can see, I got this probably from a rack in the dollar store. I am not above buying my seeds at the dollar store. One of the newest things I'm going to try this year, I know it's a southern thing, is mustard greens. I'm really curious to see if they will grow in a zone 6 garden. I'll keep you up to date. Chard is always a big thing in our garden. Ford Hook Giant is one that I grow a lot of, and then occasionally rainbow chard. I like the Ford Hook Giant better. The leaves are really massive and they have a bite to them, which I like. Kale is another thing I grow that I really love, and I have found that this red Russian kale, and I always buy the Seeds of Change brand of kale. This red Russian kale lasts throughout the summer, even in the hottest part of the summer. And kale is not really a hot climate plant. So for it to do well is pretty awesome. And the leaves are very tender. Even when they get big, they can be quickly sauteed into eggs or even used in salads. This is the best bet, I think, for a kale in a beginner garden. And then the last thing that we grow in our lettuce and leaves area is some sort of bok choy. They freeze well. In fact, we're still using it in soups and stews now in February. And stuff that I grew in August and quickly blanched and put in the freezer. The stuff is delicious, and if you're interested in trying something new, bok choy is the thing. I will always grow Sun Gold tomatoes. Sun Gold tomatoes are the most prolific, the sweetest cherry tomatoes. We all love them fresh eating. I take them for snacks, and my chickens have been known to jump up to grab one off a vine hanging over the fence and run away with it before the others catch on. They are delicious, awesome tomatoes. The problem with it is I can't save the seeds because it is something called an F1 hybrid, which means it is a first generation of 2 different plants that have been cross-pollinated. You can save the seeds, and you can certainly grow a very healthy tomato plant, and there is a small chance that you will get something that looks like a Sun Gold, but you can't be guaranteed to save the seeds from an F1 hybrid and get that very same tomato should you save the seeds. So I didn't save any seeds from that. I'll need to purchase those Sun Gold tomatoes. But here are the 4 tomatoes that I'm going to be trying that are new. Midnight Pear. I did have a chocolate cherry last year that we really loved, so I grabbed this Midnight Pear because I just love the shape of a small pear tomato, and we'll give this one a try. I'm going to grow the Sweetie cherry tomatoes for fresh eating again because it's been highly recommended, and I love cherry tomatoes, especially when they grow all over the fence in my garden. For my paste tomatoes for fresh eating, I'm going to be growing this Roma paste tomato for the first time. Tomatoes come in different sizes, right? So you have your cherry tomato size, you have your smaller tomato, those are called saladettes, they are a smaller tomato. Then you have your paste tomatoes, and then you have your slicers, what some people would call beefsteak. The word beefsteak is kind of like the word Q-tip or the word Kleenex. It originally was one variety, and now it is used as a general name for any big sized tomato that is used for like tomato sandwiches or the tomato on your hamburger. So for slicers, I'm going to try Climbing Triple Crop. We're going on a tomato adventure this year with some new ideas. Now we're going to talk about the herbs for the summer garden. I'm going to be growing 2 different kinds of basil this year. I am going to try the Tulsi basil, otherwise known as the holy basil. I don't believe this is a basil that you would use for your pesto needs, but it's supposed to have a lot of great fragrance. I'm guessing it might be a great tea basil, and I'm going to try that out. Of course, always the sweet basil, Genovese basil, for freezing, for making fresh pesto, for making those caprese salads. The next thing I use a lot is dill. Now, dill is interesting because I have planted dill in the bed, which is now covered by a cold frame, interspersed with carrots. And I will every year get a couple of volunteer dill plants that grow quite large. This is the mammoth dill. This grows very tall. But since I do a lot of pickling, it makes sense to grow a lot of dill in my garden. The coolest thing about dill is you don't smell it till you cut it. It's very neat. When you go into the garden, you're digging in the garden, you go past a dill plant, you don't smell it. But the minute you cut it, you smell it. And if you're into dill, that mammoth dill is great. And if you keep it covered by a mulch, even in zone 6, you can make what is supposed to be an annual behave like a perennial. It's very cool. We're going to be doing parsley and cilantro for probably the 8th time, and I'm hoping I'll be more successful. I think my problem is I plant them too late and they are cool weather crops. So I'm actually going to intersperse parsley and cilantro in my cold frame bed with my lettuces and leaves in March and see if I can get them to grow, harvest them, and then plant another crop when the weather starts getting cooler in September. I'm going to give that a try. And I think that's it for herbs. Now for things that are standards in every garden. We're going to be doing some beets this year. I don't have consistent luck with beets. Sometimes I get big ones, sometimes I don't. But I won't give up because I love beets. So I'm going to be growing just the basic early wonder beet, and I'm going to be growing this packet of mix. And I'm not usually a mix person, but this packet intrigued me because I do love the candy stripe and the golden beets. I love that mild flavor, so I'm going to give that a try. As far as beans go, we are inundated with jars of pickled beans. Nobody in my family is crazy about green beans fresh. So what I'm going to reduce myself to is some bush yellow beans. And this is a pretty standard wax bean variety, a bush type. I'm actually going to try growing these in containers so that I don't take up space in my garden. So we'll do a video on how to set up a container garden for those of you for whom that space is your only space available. And peas. We grow a lot of peas here, 2 crops, one early, one late. It is a cool weather plant. Now, the sugar snap peas that are in here are seeds that I've saved myself. We should probably do a video on seed saving because it is the best way to not have to spend a lot of money from year to year, but I find myself still spending a lot of money from year to year. So I'm going to try some brand new things this year. I'm really kind of getting out of my routine and trying some new things. I am going to give rutabagas a try. I bought these rutabaga seeds from Harris Seeds. They are American Purple Top. I've heard that rutabagas make a great potato substitute, that they are amazing roasted. So I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to try this round zucchini called Rondenise, and we'll see if we like it. I'm going to be trying some winter squash for the first time. I'm also going to be putting up some new trellises for winter squash. Again, I have limited space, so as much as I can grow up instead of out, that helps me. So I'm going to be growing 2 small varieties of winter squash. I'm going to be growing this Butter Baby, which is a smaller size of the butternut squash, which I really love. And I'm going to be growing this Honey Bear, which is a small personal sized acorn squash. I'm going to be trying watermelons for the first time. I've never done watermelons. Now here is a plan that I have, is to try growing my cucurbits, my watermelons, and my cucumbers inside my greenhouse. My greenhouse is not very big. At the end of the year, I do have plans to make it bigger because I'd like to put supplemental heat in there and grow through the winter. I'm also going to be putting my pepper plants in there. I will show you a clip of the pepper plants that I have that I've been overwintering. And I'm going to see if I can get this stuff to grow in the greenhouse. Now let's talk about onions and leeks. These are both in the allium family. Leeks are supposed to be a great substitute for onions. I've only tried them once and I didn't have tremendous success. I think I planted them too late. So I'm going to try leeks again this year. I'm going to retry the bandit leeks because the ones that actually succeeded were amazingly tasty and huge. I'm also going to try this King Richard leek. And I think I picked this up because it was disease resistant and also tolerant of a few different temperatures. So I'm going to try the King Richard leek. Now, onions are another thing I have to perfect. I have not perfected onion growing. Onions can be grown two different ways. When you go into Home Depot and you see those onion sets in the bags, what you are buying is a second year onion. Onions are biennial. They don't flower till their second year. So when you put those sets in the ground, you risk them bolting and flowering very early before they have developed a really big onion. To do an onion the first year, you have to grow from seed. So I'm going to be starting, this is going to be the first thing that I use my new potting table that my son built for me to start my onion seeds. I'm going to let them grow into healthy onion plants, and then I'm going to transplant them into the garden. They are one of the easiest things to transplant because their roots stay very wiry, and even if there's multiple seeds in a pack, they separate really easily and you can plant them. I just haven't developed those tricks of the trade to grow those super big onions. This might be the year. These are all seeds that I saved from last year. I do grow a lot of pumpkins. We love pureed pumpkin in the winter to bake bread and to make pies. So I grew 3 different varieties of pumpkins and had success with all of them. I grew a cinnamon girl and I saved the seeds from those. I grew a champion, which was a huge jack-o'-lantern size pumpkin, and I also grew the Connecticut field pumpkin just because we live in Connecticut and I liked the name. So, and I had success with all of them and they were tasty and delicious. We ate a lot of pumpkin seeds last fall and we still have a lot of pumpkin in the freezer, so that was successful. Peppers are notoriously difficult to germinate. They're not difficult, they just take a very long time to germinate. So this year I tried something different. I tried overwintering my pepper plants. I trimmed them down, pruned them down to 1 stick and put them in a small pot and covered their roots with new dirt and put them under a grow light. They are really doing well. In fact, I have these little tiny peppers growing. They won't amount to anything because it's the wrong temperature. But I think I'll be successful putting them right in the greenhouse and getting those peppers to grow again. But there is one pepper. Oh, and the varieties that I grow are cayenne. Last year I dried a ton of them and made my own red pepper flakes. And from my video on wintering chickens, how to take care of chickens in the winter, you'll see that we go through a lot of red pepper flakes here. So last year I discovered these Biquinho peppers. I discovered them quite by accident. We picked up a packet of probably Cubanelle pepper seeds. I germinated them, I grew them, I transplanted them, and lo and behold, I grew this beautiful mounded plant with these tiny little yellow spicy peppers that were amazing. You could just pick them and throw them into a salad whole. I never even got to experiment with preserving them. So I saved what I thought were Biquinho peppers. I sprouted them this year, this past summer, grew them and didn't get the same plant. So I'm guessing they must be a hybrid. So I'm going to go out on the lookout for these tiny Biquinho peppers. I'll put the name in the bottom in case you, in the description below, in case you want to experiment trying to find them on your own. But they were amazing peppers. Now let's talk flowers. I grow 3 kinds of flowers every year in my garden. I grow sunflowers, I grow zinnias, and I grow marigolds. Marigolds are excellent for controlling pests, especially around your tomatoes. Zinnias are just non-stop color. They will bloom and bloom from early spring all the way through the coldest part of the fall. So I am going to continue to grow those. I'm also going to continue to grow sunflowers. Now last year we had a heartbreaking sunflower year. I grew 12-foot high mammoth sunflowers. They were beautiful, a whole patch of them, and they were just beginning to flower when we had a hurricane here in Connecticut. And I watched from my kitchen window as they snapped in half. It was heartbreaking. So this year, since I'm not growing birdhouse gourds this year on the chicken run, I'm going to put my sunflowers near the chicken run. So if we have a hurricane, I can attach them to the chicken run and hopefully have a better time making it through the hurricane. So I will be growing the Mammoth Russian sunflower and the Royal Hybrid sunflower. I'm on the lookout for a cutting sunflower as well that I can use just to bring them into my home. For zinnias this year, we're going to be trying the Benares Giant Lilac. I'll hold that up so that you can see the name. And we're also going to be growing the Zinnia Profusion Cherry Bicolor, that are just beautiful flowers. And again, zinnias are nonstop. They are probably the most present flower in the garden for the longest amount of time. I'm going to be growing my nasturtium in pots this year because they can take over a garden very quickly, as I discovered last year. The flowers are edible, they're a little bit spicy, and they're beautiful to add to salads or to other dishes when you are presenting a dish for company. And I'm going to be growing these Empress of India bright red ones, so I'm looking forward to that. Now, last but not least are the seeds that I don't have packets for because I've ordered them, but they've not come in. Now, talking about ordering seeds, I order seeds from a variety of places, all the standards, Burpee, Gurney's, Johnny Seeds. You can buy the Seeds of Change organic seeds at Tractor Supply, or you can get them on Amazon. But I've bought through places like Harris Seeds. I have bought from Texas Seed Company. Sometimes when I just search for the name of a plant, I'll find a seed company that I've never heard of before. And some of them have decent shipping prices so that you don't feel bad just buying a couple of packets. I'm going to be growing a cabbage called Storage Number 4. I've never grown cabbage before, and I hear this is a pretty easy one to grow, and it's also good for storage. So we're going to give that one a try. I'm going to be growing some gypsy broccoli, and I'm also going to be growing a sprouting broccoli. Now, the thing about sprouting broccoli is you can pull off the main head when it's small, and the plant will continue to send up shoots of broccoli, individual shoots, so that you can use that one for fresh eating, while the gypsy broccoli is developing the really big heads that you're going to use to cut up, blanch, and freeze for the winter. We're going to be growing radishes this year. Radishes I've never grown in my garden here. We had them when we were kids, but I think my family liked that spiciness in a salad of a fresh radish. I'm not sure how we'll feel about that now, but I've heard when you roast radishes, they're a game changer. So I'm going to be growing 3 types of radishes. We're going to be growing the Nelson radish, the Alpine radish, which is a pure white radish, and then another radish called the French breakfast, which is supposed to be very sweet and really awesome to roast. And I'm going to be using my radishes as companion plantings. Radish, onion, and carrots, I'm going to attempt to companion plant them with other things, so I'm not going to dedicate a whole bed to just that stuff. So those are my seed choices for this year. I will include an entire list of what I am growing down below in the description. If this video was helpful to you, please remember to hit the subscribe button and the like button. If you have questions or comments, that always looks good to YouTube, so go right ahead and add that question or comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening!